Everyone thought that John Walsh was a good guy. Too Strong is not convinced of that in the least. Yes, John Walsh did indeed put his daughter through a living hell by going after her kids multiple times and causing her life to be an absolute hellhole.
The information I gave to my father regarding Kanye and my son's father and everything.
So we kind of had a hard time understanding why you would hand off information about your children to the one person that could cause detriment to you and your children.
You're the only one that's told us that we have no testimony from anybody. You
Allison Armstrong. Allison Armstrong.
We thank you for telling us who you're buying your marijuana from.
I want to speak to you directly, myself, on behalf of Too Strong, yes, but more so for myself. Sometimes the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but what happens when the tree intentionally throws the apple down, and then eventually the apple starts to resent the tree, but it couldn't help but become the same type of tree that threw it away. You might think we're just talking off the cuff with this one, but the story has a good lesson behind it, and I think it's good that you guys stay around till the end so you can understand what we're going to be talking about. Some time ago, Too Strong covered quite the excursion of Mr. Walsh, and John Walsh, I mean, in case people don't know. And his story of starting these Amber Alerts and looking out for children didn't quite sit well, and we never really quite bought into it. And eventually we got a hold of one of his children, Megan, and we were privy to some stuff on the inside that most either decided to ignore or wasn't willing to cover. Too Strong did. And when we initially embarked on this journey, we encountered quite a bit of resistance from the people we were going after, but eventually it started to turn inwards, and we started to notice some things, and people were pointing out some little discrepancies with the story we were given, and we were the kind of people that gave the benefit of the doubt, which we did. But then something else popped up, and most of you were privy to that particular live where things kind of went sideways and pretty much then fell south. So we're here to kind of give an update of where things have gone and what things have been transpired, but also to kind of cover what results when one isn't willing to introspectively look at themselves and realize that the problem may not necessarily be outside, it might be inside. When we first talked about John Walsh and his loss of his son and what actually kick-started his career in the media circles with looking for predators and finding missing children, everyone thought that John Walsh was a good guy. Too Strong is not convinced of that in the least. Having him work with certain individuals in government to create certain things gave us pause, and we decided to look into it, and then we encountered Megan Walsh. Since that time, we've found some interesting things out about Megan, and we're here to kind of give a lesson out to others as well as speak directly to Megan. Number one, yes, John Walsh did indeed put his daughter through a living hell by going after her kids multiple times and causing her life to be an absolute hellhole. We agree 100% with that. And we have no doubt that because of his behavior, it affected her negatively to the point where she herself started to medicate in ways that was not conducive to even keeping the children that she wanted. We've seen court cases now online, with including her, that have asked her to change certain behaviors in order to get the kids back if that's what she said she wanted.
Her provider of her medical marijuana. Now we've got a provider, we think, but that's only because Megan says that we do. We don't have anybody here to tell me how much medical marijuana she's supposed to have. Her tests that she's testing, we can't test her levels of medical marijuana because she could be taking medical marijuana and then be smoking 4 times as much, but we don't know because we don't know how much she's getting from her provider. So there's little holes in everything that Megan does, and she thinks she's fooling me. You're not fooling me, Mother Nature. I got you.
And my levels are checked every week for marijuana. My levels are checked, and it's been testified on the prior case to that.
You're the only one that's told us We have no testimony from anybody. You told us
Allison
who you're getting.
Armstrong.
So
Allison
we
Armstrong.
thank you for telling us who you're buying your marijuana from, but we don't know how much. You're not going to play the games with the court anymore. You're going to be ordered to go to places. You're going to be ordered just like everybody else in a dependency case. And if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you're going to lose this child too.
What people need to understand is that we gave everybody involved in this the benefit of the doubt. You wanted your kids. We're all for people having their kids back. But when your needs supersede that of your statement that you want your kids back, or better yet, your wants, we kind of start getting included in that and drugged down with you, and there's a problem there. When asked directly about certain statements they made, Megan, I mean, they were unwilling to be frank about what they actually meant and why they stated what they stated. For what reason is yet unknown. Have they stopped doing what they're supposed to be doing? Yeah, obviously, because they've finally lost the last kid that they got. So how do we move forward from this location? Because we at Too Strong, we put our necks out for the situation. And unfortunately, it got lopped. And the people to suffer the most are the ones that are going to be still in the cycle that Mr. Walsh has started with these Amber Alerts. So we're going to be giving 2 object lessons. And one is for the audience out there for better character referencing. And number 2 is directly aimed at Megan. For those of you out there who really do want to help with the situation in terms of getting and finding children who are either exploited, sold off, stolen, kidnapped, hurt, the means by which that are available right now are, I don't know if I can call them efficient, because a lot of people that have their hands in it are only doing it for some sort of personal gain, if not the ones actually behind the disappearances of some of these children. When we looked at this in depth, there was a whole lot missing from the actual system that could have been included. There are people that said they were wanting to help and all they're doing is lining their pockets. And in many cases, like with John Walsh, the whole situation was built around his fame. His whole family suffered for it, and including his daughter. All of them went to the side. And now he's starting a brand new series with his son, his other son, the one that's alive, not the Adam Walsh, gone one. We have to do better as a society without needing people like John Walsh, because he might be, on the surface, the kind of person that you might think would help, but he's not helping. That's never been his goal. Otherwise, you'd see it reflected in the way he handled his own children. If you say you care so much about it, why is it that your reactions to your daughter is so averse? I mean, I have kids of my own, so I understand that sometimes you're willing to do just about everything you can to help. But when you create the issue and then act like you didn't have a hand in it at all, that tells me a lot about your character. And it's a trash one. But as for Megan, I want to speak to you directly. Myself. On behalf of Too Strong, yes, but more so for myself. When you were on our program, the 3 times that you were there, we were quite willing and probably one of the few out there that had the platform large enough to help you in your situation. And a lot of the things we asked you were not very straightforward with, even though in hindsight we didn't see it then, but we do see it now. And then that final program that we had you on, we had quite the powwow and the falling out.
This is very inappropriate and disrespectful.
Hey.
I have no problem talking about what the issues are and that Andre can tell you about and vouch for what his involvement with my father is. Yes, they do know each other. Yes, they have spoken.
And I still stand by my statements, and I do still stand by the way I see things. However, I do have one bit of information to hand over to you that I hope will help, at least in your case. From all the information we've seen, you have a problem. And it is more than just a personality issue, and it is more than just a history or a family problem. It is a very, very personal drug problem. And whether you see it or not, the people that matter the most in getting your kids back see it that way. The one information piece that we saw was that interaction between you and the judge when it came to talking to him about getting your children back. And no matter how many times he spoke to you about your issue, the one thing you decided to do was constantly retaliate and fight back and say this and say that. None of it proved that you wanted to do the hard work to really reinstate your rights as a mom.
Because there's a hole in every single thing that you've been asked to do.
I have done every evaluation, Your Honor, and I was told that I could have a private provider, and I have found that. This is not being
a private provider doesn't mean just somebody out there that says they practice in this. They've got to be
not
a
at all.
licensed.
She's an expert. She is an expert in IT. I'm sorry.
I don't care about expert. They got to be licensed in the practice of psychology.
Yes, she is.
What Megan thinks. Not what Megan thinks.
We don't know exactly what you're going to do to fix this, but you've been given opportunity after opportunity to do it, and you have not.
It's the same train. It's the same light at the end of the tunnel. It's the same train with the light that's going to run over you, Megan, if you don't get this done. All you've got to do is go to where they say go, answer the questions that they want you to answer, and be done with it. And if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you're going to lose this child too.
Are your children just not worth it to you, or is it just that you don't see the problem at all? So how many people does it take to point out your problem for you to acknowledge that it's there? If almost everyone that you've spoken to, and I literally mean almost everyone, comes to you and tell you this, there's a problem. And every time you tell them, no, that's not it. It's this, and that. We are not negating the fact that the people that you are going up against are bad people. 100% they're bad people. But you can't afford to keep giving them ammunition. You keep loading their gun. Instead of even just leaving the room, you go over and politely ask them for the same weapon they're willing to put you away with, and you load it with hollow points. Every opportunity you've been given, it's been squandered. And the one person that you could have recruited to help you, because it's part his, you ostracized, even on the program. So I'm going to bring it up here. Now, is this from you or from another account that isn't you?
No, that is my account.
Okay. So when I read it, it was shocking because we've had MAGA on the show before. And I think you know that. We've talked to MAGA before. We've talked to you before.
I do know. Yeah, this is very interesting.
Right. So I don't know
that this is coming
I don't know whether or not we should have the ties, and like I said, the ties information here. The ties information is where I'm trying to make sure that we, Too Strong, don't get tied up in something we don't need to be tied up in. That makes sense?
Wow.
So if that is true, if that statement that's right here is true, I would, maybe you can clarify for me whether or not it is real, is true, verifiably, or if it is more of a statement of what your father. I just need clarification about the tweet in general.
No, when I'm told by Andre Van that my parents have reached out to him about Esther and that they've had their attorney talk with him on the phone, I'm not going to get pulled into all of this, with all due respect, gentlemen. I'm not God, and I don't have all of the answers. And when I'm being played with, and there is honeypots and there are paid opposition, and I'm doing my best to keep grace with the father of my child, but yet I also have to worry very much about these things, and it's very complicated, the situation. So yes, there's very much reason why I would put this up.
Now, I don't know exactly what is transpiring in your mind, and I'm not trying to get into that door and dive around up there because I have other things to do. But I really would hope for the sake of your children that you do a sit down with yourself in the mirror, look at yourself deeply, and see exactly where you are now. Whether that be by your own doing or by your father's doing, you're there. That's the bottom line, is that you are there. Can you get out? Of course. But will you? Whole nother ball game. something has to change, and it either is your viewpoint of yourself or the expediency of getting your kids back. Your father's starting a new venture. Okay, good. Could it be that you initially, when you started all this, wanted to be on the same level as now your brother? I'm not trying to be a psychologist here, but my job right now in what I'm doing, in the sphere I'm doing it, is to try and weed through things and see if it makes sense. And the only logical thing I can come to is what I'm about to say next. I honestly believe that you wanted to be so close to your dad and he was unable to, that there was something in you that kickstarted this behavior in order to get his attention. Whether it be bad attention, it's attention. It literally was like you were reaching out to him to be a father instead of a piece of crap, and you hope that he would do something to interact with you. And in so doing, you started on this, I don't know what you call it, if it's a road or a path or a deer trail. But even in your communications with us, you selectively had children. Selectively. On purpose, in a certain manner. Almost as though it was methodical to lure him into your world to have some sort of a sight that he was a dad. May not have been to you, but like a grandfather stepping in, you saw something of what you wanted to see in John Walsh. And there was also this part of you that wanted to be on this adventure with him. And it wasn't happening. So anger set in. And when anger set in, so did the abuse of certain, I don't know, illegal substances. And now here you are, trying to get right back in to his good graces. Remember, you told us that you told him about things to do with your children, even though you've told us that he's an exploiter.
The information I gave to my father regarding Kanye and my son's father and everything, there's stuff that I, whether I should keep it to then use in the future if they need it, or different various things. I'm an open book, so I've given everything over.
So we kind of had a hard time understanding why you would hand off information about your children to the one person that could cause detriment to you and your children. But it makes sense. At least in this theory, it makes 100% sense to us. You really wanted his attention. He never gave it. But the thing about it is this. You're at an age now where you have to make your own path. You have to. And you got to forget the things that made you, I guess you can say, who you are now, and forge your own way forward without the darkness that you've been dragging along with you. John Walsh ain't a good man. He's starting this new thing. He's making more money at 77 some years old. Your brother now is moving along with him. And you, well, we'll see what's happening. Again, for second, third, maybe fifth time, you've been left behind. The anger is going to be real, I understand. But please don't medicate. Find some sort of help somewhere. And I don't just mean remedial, court-mandated help. I really mean help. We're not the ones, though, to do that. We've put our 2 cents in, we've done our part, and we're not in a position to do more. But it is your life, and all we are asking you to do for the sake of the children that you say you care about, do something different. Change, stop, move forward. Because your daddy, I'm sorry to say, but he ain't coming back this way. He ain't straightening up. He's starting something new again to do more damage to what, on top of what he did before. Now he's bringing a second generation in with him. And it's not you. And that could be a very big blessing, Megan. This is a huge blessing. You do not want to be in the same circle. There's a reason why you were shook from the tree. While you may share the same traits as that tree and be an apple, you are a completely separate tree. Your branches will grow differently. Your root system will be different. You do not need to mimic the tree you came from, regardless of how similar you are. This is where you make that decision. This is where you make that stance. More than just a sad story of children getting taken away. Make it one of a triumphant story where you broke out of the bonds that your father put you in into freedom. Will you? I don't know. I don't know if you will. I don't know if that you want to. We're just encouraging you to do it because it is best for you. Because without you having a sane mind and a strong mind, your children will only be gaining a broken mom. And you know what's going to continue? The cycle. The same cycle that your dad put you in, you're going to put your kids in. They're going to look to you for attention and love that they're not going to get because you won't be able to offer it. You'll be too preoccupied with other things. Trying to gain the attention of your pops again, trying to gain the limelight, trying to do this, do that. And you forget the one thing that you were fighting for to begin with. Just like John did. You're at an impasse. And you either become the tree you hate, or you become a brand new tree. Right now, you're still a seed. I just ask that you grow wisely. Because at the end of this, the people that will suffer the most is not just you, not John, not Andre. So please choose wisely. Your kids matter, and they're depending on you.